Well, hello there. I'm Bradford, and this is the Worship Friends podcast. In all seriousness, this is welcome to Worship Tutorials. We're sitting with our friends. That's Brian behind me.
Hey, I'm Brian. Hey. Welcome.
And this is Nate the Souza.
Yeah, hey.
And HW.
The funny thing is, maybe
Jonathan
5%
Sullivan.
of your audience knows the joke. Do you know what I mean? Because
That's probably true.
Which joke?
Right.
No one watches.
What's the joke?
No one watches.
What joke?
The
theme song.
Anyway,
It doesn't matter. We sang the theme song for Tone Junkie's podcast, Guitar
yes,
Friends.
right.
Yes. So it's not the Worship Friends. That their podcast is called Guitar Friends.
There are hundreds of them.
Hundreds.
There
are dozens of us.
Dozens.
Yeah.
We are downstairs in our studio in Alabama, and these boys are from, Franklin, right?
Yeah,
Not,
we're
not
close
actually
enough.
Nashville.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You're just outside. Are you in Spring Hill?
Okay,
Okay,
south,
that's all right. I remember.
enough.
See, I remember
Yeah.
things.
What do you want? My
So-
address?
I have it. We're here
We're
just
gonna
hanging
dox
out.
you.
So we're doing some discussion on tone and guitar, and we're going to talk about some spiritual stuff.
Guys, before we go any further, though, I have to say, when you invited us to be on the Guitar Friends podcast on your channel,
Yeah.
we started, and I was ridiculed
Yeah.
in the comments because I don't like In-N-Out.
Yeah.
I don't like the In-N-Out.
It wasn't that
burger.
you don't like it. It was the worst
I said it's
fast
the
food.
worst
There's a
fast food
difference.
burger.
However,
Yeah.
speed of the leader, speed
Which-
of the team.
Just a bit of hyperbole.
So Jonathan is the leader, and as he goes, so the comments went. If Jonathan was a little kinder to you,
Oh.
I have a feeling.
know about
he,
that.
is
he
good,
laughed
guys.
at me and he goes, "It's not the worst. It's so not the worst."
I think
Brian
Brian.
has it memorized.
I think
I watched it so many times.
I think
Yeah.
the leash was long enough for Brian to hang himself. That's what I think. I think I just let him go with where he wanted to go, and people made their own judgments.
In that video, I said that my favorite burger is the one I make for myself. So we've invited the Tone Junkie boys down here to Birmingham,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
grilled us all burgers.
Uh-huh.
And how were they?
They were good.
They were delicious.
They were great.
Were they better than In-N-Out?
Well, you
Thank
know what?
you so much for
yeah,
having
this is
us
a
over,
great.
Brian.
I really appreciate the hospitality.
Yeah.
And
Love your
what
basement.
You
what
got
a
a great guitar,
Yeah,
man.
these guys- oh, the amps
beautiful
are-
studio you have
Yeah.
here. Wonderful. I mean,
Right.
so many.
They're
amps
better
and-
than In-N-Out,
and
to me.
You know, it's been.
If
It's
it
really
means
a great-
anything at all, I had 3.
Yeah, he did have.
Yeah,
did
they're
have
very
3
good.
He
of
went
them,
back
yeah.
for the 3rd
They're
burger.
very good.
Yes.
Yeah.
I made enough so he could have 3.
My 3rd bun wasn't toasted. The experience did go down some.
Yeah.
Oh. That's a
No,
big
they
part.
were
They were
good.
so
They were
good.
great. They were great.
Yeah.
You know, In-N-Out for a lot of people who grew up on the West Coast has like a nostalgia factor. You know, it's like
does.
it's like having your friends over for your like 8th grade or 8th birthday party, 9-year-old birthday party.
Yeah.
You know, and you like maybe you go to Round Table.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not objectively
And
great.
Brian just poo-pooed all over
Yeah.
that and tried to tell
Yeah,
all
all our
these
childhood
people
memories,
their childhood is garbage.
Yeah.
It's the
I went
worst.
to after that.
That's what he did.
Eyes black and blue, face bruised from the comments. I went to my wife, who lived in San Diego for 6 years of her life.
Interesting.
She went to college in San Diego and then lived there for several years after and worked. And I said, I don't like In-N-Out. And I'm getting beat up in the comment section. She's like, why? In-N-Out is terrible.
Oh, no.
She goes, I went there once.
See, I don't
And
know.
you know
what?
Once,
I
I went
think
there once is
once.
not what he's describing.
I think you married
know?
a very sweet woman who cares about you a lot.
Yeah. Can we say thank you for having us over? This has been such
Yeah,
a
thank
great
you so
trip.
much.
Dorothy Mantooth is a saint. Let's talk about
That's
I got you.
no. I
So Angie and I are on
Yeah.
the same page. We're
Yeah.
fine. We'll live in our little
well,
bubble.
that's good.
I'm with John.
Don't kill me
I'm
in
with
the
these
comments,
guys. I don't
please.
think
Yeah.
I don't think you two are on the same page. I think she's just being nice to you.
maybe it might be that.
Also, it depends
might
on
be
when
that.
she had it. Our taste buds change, scientifically proven.
Okay.
So if she had it as a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old, and she's now not that,
Well, I tried to redeem myself by making all of you guys cheeseburgers from my heart, and I had it and it was good. I liked it.
It was great.
It was
They were great.
better than
That-
most fast food burgers
Yeah.
I've had. It's up there.
I'll receive that.
But
Yeah.
In-N-Out
Bradford had
is-
3. I'll take it. In-N-Out is
top
still
level.
the best.
It was-
It's top tier.
It was easily better than Five Guys. That's not even.
Oh,
a
for
conversation.
Five Guys is my favorite.
Yeah.
It was better than Five Guys.
cheaper than Five Guys too.
Way cheaper.
Yeah,
Way
it's
cheaper.
Everything is cheaper. Than
No
this house
doubt.
was cheaper than Five Guys cheeseburgers.
Well played.
So, I watched one of my favorite episodes of Guitar Friends was you guys just rating all the guitars in your room.
Yeah.
It was a fun episode for me because I've played many of
Yeah,
them.
you played most. Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of them.
And so it was like I was remembering the guitars in my head as you rated them. Like, oh yeah, that one, that is
Yeah.
Goldie is a 10.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Dude, you know what's funny? I thought when we made that video it would be the worst video. I even told Suze and John, I said, I think we just made the most boring video we could have made.
I loved it.
I was like, because what's the point of
I had
rating
faith
guitars
in
that no one else can play?
That's
like
true.
most people haven't played them. They're just numbers and it's like
Yeah.
here's a Les Paul, here's a number,
Yeah.
here's a Tele, here's a number, and guitars are all unique and kind of different. And people ended up kind of liking it, which I thought was cool.
Yeah.
Because we didn't like play them a bunch
Yeah.
or something. We just really quick went through.
Yeah.
But there was some discussion, so I think that was
Yeah.
a cool.
Yeah.
But you enjoyed it.
I did. And Bradford and Nick and I have got to play some of your guitars. Nick, have you played these guys' guitars when you went down there?
Yeah.
Oh, today only. But Bradford and I visited you guys when we did some content.
Yeah.
And we got to play some. But today you guys got to play some of our guitars.
Yeah.
We did.
It was so fun.
Mostly my guitars.
You have a lot of guitars here, man.
I have too many. I have not enough.
lot.
One fewer than I
You
need.
have a lot more stuff than I thought you had.
See, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I recognize a lot of it from actually
Yeah.
seeing it, but I feel like I haven't. I don't know. When you're in here and it's not just a shot of one wall
Yeah.
versus another one,
Yeah.
you see it all. You realize there's a lot of stuff in here.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was
So,
what
What was your favorite guitar of mine that you played today? Or some standouts? And we'll put pictures
yeah,
of
yeah.
them.
I
up
would
in
say
the-
the two Sheltons were
Sheltons are-
really, really because I had never played any Shelton guitar.
Most underrated guitar brand to me.
Yeah, I would say the Strat was very inspiring to play.
That's the Skyflight. Is what
Okay,
that's called.
Skyflight.
Yeah, the Shelton, the white and gold one.
Yes, yeah, and it was P90 kind of humbuckery thing in the bridge.
Yeah.
Lots of switches and
Yes.
pull, push,
It's
whatever.
very confusing.
But yeah, just kind of playing it, and it was stronger than a typical Strat, like a Fender Strat. It just
What do you
felt
mean
more,
by stronger?
Just more
You said
present
that,
and
yeah.
like
tone-wise.
authoritative. Yeah, just
Tone-wise.
kind of
Okay.
didn't feel weak or like
Yeah.
pulled back at all. It felt like I could really push it.
100% agree.
You know, it was. You said it was a little stiff, which I agree with, but it was. I don't know. It sort of like had its own charm to it that it wasn't real slinky or smooth. It felt more like solid and substantial.
You could hit it.
Yeah,
could dig
you were
in
there.
hard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And then the other one was the kind of the offset.
That's the red one.
what was that
That's-
called?
Right here
That's
on
called
out
a-
of camera.
That's called
Just
a.
right off the camera.
You can
That's
nearly
called a
see it.
Galaxy Flight.
Galaxy
That's
Flight.
his JM
Okay.
shape. Yeah.
I would say that guitar was more me.
and
Like
Nick's
I,
just right over there.
hey Nick. I like that body style. I like the
Yeah.
pickups. The trem felt great. I kept commenting on
mastery.
Yeah.
how good that trem felt. So I don't know. Those two kind of stood out to me.
Those
Yeah,
are-
I
those
dug
are
that
two
red
good
one.
guitars.
Maybe it's close to the JM Pro, which I'm partial
Probably
to.
is,
yeah,
yeah.
we like those.
But I
Sorry,
mean,
there's no sir here for you.
yeah, sorry.
I made a
what's up with that?
Well, I made a comment. I think I made it maybe I just texted you, but I
Yeah.
thought I commented.
Yeah.
The Sir is to Tone Junkie what PRS is to Worship Tutorials. So like you guys have a lot of Sir high-end guitars.
It was just really funny to hear you both go.
I-
Good for you.
and maybe not worship maybe
It's like
not
really
worship
good.
tutorials.
It's like a really good sermon.
Maybe
Yeah.
not worship tutorials because I don't want to lump Bradford into that.
I love
Right.
PRS, but
I
I don't
lo-
feel
I
I don't
love
feel the
PRS,
same
maybe
way about
me.
PRS as you.
I love PRS guitars.
But I still love them a lot, like more than I ever have. But
So we don't have any Sirs here. I have owned a Sir. I owned an Alt T at one point. Bradford, you had
I still have that white
you
telly.
still have a telly.
I'll take that back whenever you're
yeah,
not. Whenever
I
you're
don't
you
think
have
you're
that,
getting it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the
that
best.
guitar
that's
is
the best
awesome.
telly
Great
I've ever
guitar,
played.
man.
It's a great.
Guitar's
It's a
awesome.
great guitar.
Aside from, I actually played. I met guys know Spence Peppard. He came through our area, and I met him in Durham. And I've met him before. He's a great dude. We'd call each other friends, but he had an Elliott Sugar Pine Telly.
Yeah.
That thing
yeah.
was top 5 best
He's like
guitars
all
I've
Elliott, huh?
ever played.
For sure.
Yeah, I think on tour he had that, and he had the whatever the Les Paul Junior-ish double cut Les Paul Junior, or no, it looks like a Coronata or whatever those. It's kind of like one of those. I forget what he calls it, Royal Haven, maybe? It's the True Shirley Sig. I know that. The Raven is the like semi-hollow telly thing. But
I've only played Elliott guitars at NAMM, so I've actually never played an Elliott guitar.
Yeah,
the thing though about guitars at NAMM is the feeling is what I care more about. Like I don't care how personally. I don't care.
You can't hear the thing, but
yeah, if I can't hear it, that's fine because I know if it feels good, okay, then I'm gonna want to hear it. But if it doesn't feel good, I don't care.
Yeah.
But anyways, sorry, sidetracked. You
So
were saying your favorite. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the red one. I mean, I have a Les Paul that I love. That's a Tokai. Yours feels. I mean, they're probably off by 2 years. We think yours is 79. Mine's an 81. You know, they've got a different name, but as you know, the neck feels the same. The weight
guitar,
is almost the exact same.
Yeah. They felt identical.
Which really goes to show you how like consistent the manufacturing is on those guitars.
Yeah,
even
they're
2 years
40
apart,
years later.
and
Yeah.
you could have told me they were one serial number apart.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, yeah, they're that close. You've got bigger frets on yours now, and that's really and we have different pickups in them.
Yeah.
But that's so. Yeah, it's a great Les Paul. You got the Gibson
The gold top?
the R6.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's a
P90s
good guitar.
and that's a good one. Those pickups kind of were barky like my my LP Deluxe, you know. And so
That
I
was a
dig
cool
that.
guitar.
You know, I was trying to think that might have been my favorite of what we played. I mean, there's a lot of guitars around here. I didn't try the
We didn't
purple
play 'em
one,
all.
though. You have a new
purple
purple.
icon.
You have to try the Icon. Did you
yeah.
not play it? Did you not go upstairs at NAMM to try it?
I did.
I think
I
you
did.
played it a bit.
But you know, you played a million things. You know, you forget.
I know that thing.
Yeah.
I may be taking that, and Brian won't know about it.
Yeah.
I think you would notice.
I suppose if it's gone, I know where to find it.
Yeah, I do have an honorable mention guitar, which is the MJT Telly, the white one.
with the
yeah,
gold pick guard.
man, that thing. I think it was the first one I picked up when I walked in.
That's my favorite guitar.
Maybe it was subconscious. I
Yeah,
somehow
it's new.
knew this is the one to play.
Yeah.
But really snappy, really like
good
just
telly.
responsive,
It's a
and
good telly.
I would add a trim if it were me. I'd put like a Bigsby on there or something. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Sometimes not having the Bigsby is a good limitation. I tend to overuse them. So.
I've burned myself on that.
Yeah.
I've put a Bigsby on 2 different Telecasters before, and it ruined both of them.
Interesting. That's always
And so it's like,
it's a
I'm not ready
possibility.
for a third strike. I do
Right.
not want to get out. in a
Especially with
game of
one you
guitar.
like that much.
Yeah.
But you didn't know how to set up guitars at those.
That's true. It was
And
early days.
I think
Yeah.
I think I've heard guitar builders before say this, and Josh Williams being one of them. It's like when you do a Bigsby, he said nobody's ever complained about our Bigsbys on our guitars or trim system of any kind. He's like, it's because we spend so much time on the nut and getting that just right. Like if there's any little bit of friction, it causes it's got to be
messes it
perfect.
up. Yeah.
And he's like, and he wasn't saying it to toot their own horn, but he should because Josh Williams guitars are incredible. But he was like, it all comes down to that. Because I used to think that too, but I think you need to do it right. I think what kills the sustain on a telly with a Bigsby is the fact that it's not touching the body like at all. It's very different, and so that's why people think are like, he feels dead, and it's like
That's what I feel.
If it's done right. Anyways,
But that
I guess
MJT,
this is what people are here for, right?
that MJT is
Hear us
my
talk
favorite
like this.
guitar.
Put a Bigsby on it.
You asked me what my best guitar was, and I said something else, but I don't think it's my best guitar. It was my favorite one.
Yeah, interesting.
Which is an interesting statement to me.
Right. The difference, yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the best then?
I think I said the 594.
Yeah,
PRS 594 is
I-
the best guitar.
Are you talking
I don't know,
about
just
quality
just
or like
quality,
build? Yeah.
tone,
Yeah, it was a great guitar. I played that for
everything.
a while. Yeah.
It's just it's also the
It
most
sounds expensive.
It's the most expensive electric guitar.
How much
Sounds
is one
like
of
it,
those?
yeah.
What does a 594 go for? What do they
Well, it's
sell
a
those
10
for?
top. So
Okay.
let's find
So,
out.
Like $1 million.
Yeah, it's
New-
over. It's over
New, they're over
5,000.
5. 54.
Dang.
5440.
54.
That is not a cheap guitar.
It better be.
That
It
looks
better be
just like
good.
that one too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Favorite guitar that I brought over?
I have 2 favorites. Both of them the Tokais. The gold top with the mini buckers, the deluxe. Man, that just felt at like
It's a light Les Paul.
it's
too.
very light.
Yeah.
It plays. It's so
not a Les Paul.
responsive. Like as you play
sorry.
it, you know,
It's not. It's a copy.
It's a what do they call them? I don't know.
power
It's a
something.
Greco,
It's
by
an
the way.
ESG 700 or something.
But it had
Yeah.
power.
That's a
something
Greco,
on the,
by the way.
on
Yeah,
the
it's a
headstock.
Greco. Oh, sorry.
Did I call it a Tokai?
You
Sorry,
said
it's a
both of
Greco.
the Tokais anyway.
Yeah. The gold Greco. It
Details
just felt
matter.
like you always describe good Les Pauls as like a big telly, right?
yeah,
People
yeah.
say that all the time.
Sure.
Do they?
As far as like
Somebody
tonally,
I do.
as far as feel goes, that one felt more like a
Yeah.
Telly than any other Les
Yeah,
Paul.
because it wasn't 12 pounds.
Yeah, right.
There was more. That was part of it, but like
Yeah.
it just felt
You
awesome.
just knock off several
Yeah.
pounds of the guitar. Sure, it
That
doesn't
was
feel
cool,
like a Les Paul
and
anymore.
I think I really liked your Tokai, the Burst,
Yeah.
for many of the same reasons I
Right,
like the
right.
one I have.
Yeah.
Those are awesome guitars.
Super similar. What did you
They're
think of
cool.
the double neck, Bradford?
I never
That was
played it.
very bizarre.
That's a great word for it.
It's like the 12 string was like at an awkward height.
I know it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was too high, and
Yeah.
then the regular 6 string was like a little too low, and I couldn't see what I was doing.
Yes.
And then like you playing a 12 string on an electric, the neck is the nut width has got to be smaller than like what they do on acoustics, because I was like not sure. There's no space between strings.
No, there's not.
So it's like I'm not sure if I'm like hitting like both A strings or if I'm hitting an A and a D at the same. Like
Yeah.
I couldn't tell, but it was really cool. And I kept thinking. We were playing through Brian's board, and I kept trying to turn off the H90, thinking that there was chorus on there. I was like,
that's right.
and I was like,
just won't go away.
this is what a 12
Right.
string sounds like.
Yeah.
But because I've never played an electric 12 string, I've played
Interesting.
I played acoustic, but
Yeah.
it makes sense because even if there's no way they can be perfectly in tune with one another,
Yeah.
so they're gonna be like it could be micro sense.
Sure.
But that's what chorus is.
Yeah.
So when you do 6 strings micro tuned off just a little bit in an octave lower,
Yeah.
it's gonna sound like chorus.
Yeah.
But it was really cool. I felt like Jimmy Page.
Yeah.
I tried to play Stairway, but
We got a good
I
take
heard
on
it.
there was a
Yeah. I
sign
heard
that
it.
said no stairway. So
Yeah,
This
yeah.
ain't- This ain't no guitar
it said
center.
it said no stairway.
Yeah, up on the wall.
That's a great guitar. I haven't played a guitar at church other than that guitar since I've
Are you
owned it.
serious?
Are
That's
you
the only
serious?
one you
It's
It's
played.
the only one I've played.
How many weeks in a row? Or like how many
It's
times
been,
in a row
I
have
think
you
it's been
played
3
it?
times. I haven't been playing a ton. We got a young baby right now, but it's been 3 times since I bought that, and I haven't had it that long. How long have I had it?
Yeah,
Yeah, since right before Christmas.
3 months, 4
Can I
months.
Yeah, maybe 3
can I
months.
ask you guys a silly question?
Please.
Always.
I haven't played the same guitar 3 times in a row
That's not a question. That's a statement.
since that I can like literally
Details
that I
matter.
can remember since I only had like 2 guitars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys do that? Do you show up at church every time you play with a different guitar? Like it's a joke. where
Yeah,
I
never
play
back to
these
back.
days.
I always want to do something different, but
Every week
I
it's
might
a
play
different-
a guitar more than others.
Yeah,
but-
yeah, sure.
I mean,
do
you
too,
went through a
but-
long stint though of playing basically every week for years and years and years.
Oh god, I played a bunch.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, 3 times a month
So,
or
like,
whatever.
yeah,
but
so-
never the same guitar back to back.
That, okay,
It's
so
too
it's always a
boring.
different guitar.
Yeah, I want to change it up.
Every week it's a different.
why not?
Yeah.
I'm usually only playing once or twice a month, so there's some weeks in the middle. So it doesn't quite feel
Yeah.
like I just did this.
yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I mean?
Yeah.
7 days
So,
apart. yeah.
but for a lot of years, I'd have a lot of guitars at home, and then I would only take like Surge AM Pros out.
Yeah.
And even then,
But you have like 3 of them, right?
yeah, but
Does that count as the same guitar?
No, those are different.
a lot of times
There's
I'd
a blue
show
one
up.
and a pink one and a silver one.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different colors, and different pickups. They have different pickups. A lot
Yeah.
of times I'd show up though, and I'd try to play something different, and then I would just for fun, like last song of practice, and I'd pull out the blue one with the P90s, and I go, never mind, this sounds better, and I just play that one
guitar's
again.
awesome. I remember that guitar.
Yeah.
That's almost how I am. I'll be sitting at home and I'm like, all right, something about the set feels like it needs a Telly
Yeah.
or Trons. And I'm like, just like if there's 4 or 5 songs, if 2 to 3 feel like something, then it's like I just choose. There's no rhyme or reason.
You let the songs guide you.
I kind of do,
Yeah.
yeah. But what's funny is I'll do that, and then I'll be like, "Who am I kidding? My gold Shelton's just gonna sound
That's
best
it
on
for you right now.
I have, and
That's the one.
I don't know. Maybe people don't care, but I am notorious for not picking a favorite. I got
I
chewed
think
out
I
on
think
your.
we've heard
Really?
about
I
this.
never noticed that.
Yes.
What's your Desert Island
I get
modeler,
chewed
Bradford?
out for not
what
for deciding that
In no
everybody is worthy of love. You would think in 2024 I'd be okay with that.
Right, yeah.
Right, but
You're so
apparently not.
accepting.
Yeah, so accepting.
Yeah.
But I will actually say
Christian
it.
culture here,
The
Brad.
my gold Shelton Skyflight, more specifically because of, in addition, I should say, Curtis's pickups, the triple shot, and then the special Telly like bridge. That's what's in there. There's 2 single coils like Brian's. One of them is a Strat pickup, and the other one that I use all the time is actually just a Telly. pickup, but it's
in the bridge.
But he just made it into
That's rough.
So the two together can do a humbucker, which is awesome, or you
Yeah.
can just do Strat, or which I leave it on is I use the Tele pickup.
Yeah.
So that's what I use. That's my favorite guitar. Between like Shelton's fretwork and neckwork, Curtis's pickups, and the Vega trim.
It's game over.
So
Game
the last guitar that I played consistently week to week to week was that white and gold.
Yes,
Shelton
you played that
Skyflex.
all the time.
And you can see it in the Sunday vlog with Nick series.
The one I was talking about?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the last one. And I
the
still
one,
play it, but
the
it's
one
cool
that
guitar.
I played for a conference and really loved, and we asked Shelton how much, and you're like, "I'll take it," and I was like,
Bradford's like, Shelton, how much is this? I love it.
and then Brian was like,
Shelton-
"Send me the invoice." I was
Shelton
like,
gave us a price. I was like, I'll take it.
but
He's still.
But it was like the Lord was ordering the steps,
That's
and he
right.
was like, so Jacob wanted to marry Rachel, and he had his sights set on Rachel, but then Jacob or Rachel and Leah's dad was like, no, you're gonna marry Leah, right? Is those the right names?
Yeah.
And then he had to
7
work
years.
7 years and got Leah. He had to work 7 more years to get Rachel. I waited
I think he. Yeah.
close to 14 years.
You get the wrong sister.
I think he gets both wives right away, but he has another 7 years he has to serve.
I thought he had to work another.
think
7
he had to
before
wait
do
for
this.
the
Yeah, but I
second
don't
one.
think he waited the whole next 7 years.
Okay, this is not.
We'll
what
go
this
look
is
it up.
about.
Interesting.
We'll go look it up.
We're just gonna open the
Bunch of
Bible.
biblical
Bible
scholars
talk.
here.
Yeah.
You said we were going to talk about spiritual things.
Yeah, there we go.
so-
There it is.
yeah.
Check. But I had to wait, and I got it was
No,
at
you
least
got your
7
gold
years,
one.
I think, and I
That
got
gold
my
one's
Shelton Strat, and
now it's your number one.
It's better.
So you're saying the MJT is your number one guitar?
It's my favorite guitar.
Your favorite. Okay.
I don't know
top
about
of,
number
top
one,
of the pile.
but
okay.
it's my favorite guitar.
We just talked
you
about
wanna know?
this on
You want to know what I always think about when I
You
hear
play the
this
Fiore
story.
more often than not, I think, though. When that was what
I
you,
play the Fiore a lot
A
live.
lot. That's
'cause
one of
I
your
love
go-tos.
that. The pickups on that guitar sound.
Is that in this room right now?
Yeah, it's the white. That's the PRS I gave you.
You
that I
thought
said,
it was a Silver
This
Sky.
is them
Oh.
being super strat.
You play that one a lot?
I do. I love that guitar.
Oh,
Live.
interesting.
Live,
I thought you
yeah.
played the brown one more, the
DGT.
DGT more. But, okay, interesting.
Yeah, I play the Fiore more live.
Hmm.
I was at a thing at a seminary once, and I heard a biblical scholar say, was asked, "What is your favorite gospel?" And he said, I can't remember. Say Mark. Mark is my favorite gospel. Coincidentally, it's the one I've read and spent the most time studying. My second favorite gospel, let's say John. It's the one I've spent the second most time in my life studying. And so each of his favorites coincided with how much time he spent with them. And I would say I have spent the most time out of any of these guitars in the room with that white MJT.
Interesting.
Therefore, it's my favorite.
Yeah.
It just feels like home to me. I don't think it's the best guitar in the room. I don't know if it's my number one.
Yeah.
If I had to pick one guitar to only ever play live, I don't know if that's the one I'd pick.
That's
But it is
interesting.
my favorite.
Yeah,
Because
when
I've
we
spent the
picked
most time
ours-
with it.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Like I make all of our worship presets and the stuff that I build on the JM Pro.
Yeah.
I think I picked that up from you because you used to use your JM Pro to build all the profiles. It was like not a Strat, it wasn't a
Yeah,
Les Paul.
yeah.
It's just kind of in the middle and would work for all the pickup
Yeah.
types. And yeah, same thing. When I
It's
play
the one
that
you've
for
been with the most.
30 hours a week or something, just all week
Yeah.
long, pounding away presets, it's like I think, what's my number one guitar? Oh, I love that thing. I play it all the time.
It's
you know.
that one.
HW, what's your fave? What's your, if you had to pick one guitar to play forever live?
I mean, I would
what
choose.
it
My
is.
number one is also my number two. It's the double neck.
I love it.
2 for 1.
That's a
for one.
good answer.
2 for 1. And I since buying that double neck, I think it's I play that one. I don't play it the most.
Wild.
The most at home. I don't play it the most.
One guitar he's going to go with.
But yeah, I mean,
Can't even check that on a plane, man.
no, you couldn't.
You can't.
But in terms of I've only played that at church since I got it, and it's great. And the first time, did someone say, "You're not really playing that"? Yeah, absolutely, they did. And then we had a whole discussion about it. It ended up being a whole thing. But in the end, some people are just wrong, and that's it. You know what I mean? Anything you offer the Lord is worship. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So and at any given time, I like to remind people.
I have to think about that.
We'll have 2 guitar players. We'll have another electric. He's playing 6 strings. Acoustic guitar. He's playing 6 strings. Bass is playing 4 strings. And I just walk over to those guys and I go, "Hey, just so you know, I have more strings than all of you combined by
Right.
2.
You have 18.
You guys have You guys are only at 16 strings right now, and so even if the bass brings a 5 string, I've
Still
got
short.
you beat.
Yeah.
So
I picked
that's
that
the
thing up.
contest,
And when you hold a guitar, right, and you're handing it to somebody,
Yeah.
you hold it by the neck.
Yeah.
I picked that thing up and I had my hands on both necks because I didn't know what, I was worried, like
Right.
like one was gonna like fall off. Or
Yeah, you
something.
don't want to bust
And
it
I was
apart.
holding it, and the intrusive thoughts came in, and I just wanted to like grab both and just pull them apart
Like
and
a
see
wish-
what would
like a
happen.
How
wishbone.
strong am I?
Yeah.
Well, or I just didn't know
Yeah.
how strong the guitar was. I just wanted to, that would I just for and I just keep thinking about it. I was like, that feels so satisfying to grab. Whoosh.
So Bradford and I, we have a question for you guys.
yeah, please.
And we're curious if you experience what we experience.
And we want to talk about it.
And if you've asked this question, don't be offended, please. But we get emails a lot from people who purchase our presets and captures and things. And the emails are like, this is too bright with my guitar. What do I need to do?
Sure.
Or when I'm playing clean, there's too much gain. What do I need to do? And this, and I always think about this. Like, my initial response is like, how do you not know what to do? Like, how do you not know that there's a treble on the
Yeah,
amp?
if there's
that you
too
can-
much of something,
or
why
like
not take it away?
there's drive or gain on the amp block on a helix patch, just turn it down. And so the question: do you get that kind of correspondence?
Yeah, absolutely.
a lot.
Absolutely.
And then the reaction that Bradford and I've talked about a lot is: are we as preset builders creating people who don't know how to dial in
Are
sounds
we
at
doing
all?
more harm than good?
Should
quite
we stop?
possibly?
Should you stop buying our stuff and just do it on your own?
Well, I mean, in terms of are we doing more harm
Yeah.
than good, I had bad tone for a while.
I would argue we're definitely doing more good than harm.
Yeah,
But the
yeah. I mean, I would say
question-
Right.
it took me a long time to figure stuff out.
So you had bad tone for a long time.
Yeah, I mean,
I did
sure.
too.
Like I had started on a this is not a shade, this is not a line 6 any shade. I started on a flex tone too. And every preset would be like a jazz chorus clean with a soldano as my overdrive.
only two sounds.
Yeah, like that was in one of the banks already, and so I
Yeah.
just modified those and played at church with it. You know what I mean? This was like the late 90s, 97, 98. And that's just what we tried to do. Boss pedals into a Blues Junior, I didn't know. I was figuring it out,
Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. DS1 and the BD2 into the Blues Junior. Come on. Get a DL4 in there, and
Be
Now
like
you're the
minus
edge.
the bear
yeah, instant
Right.
David Crowder, I was going to say.
because it's worship tutorials.
No, and that's what we were going for.
Yeah.
At the time, that was the coolest music. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I was like,
right.
yeah. But we get that question a ton.
Yeah.
I mean, what kind of stuff do you?
Yeah, it's almost like is it broken? Am I using it wrong? Like that's kind of the mentality of like I even got a question about the Worship 100 patches saying like these don't sound like I thought they would sound. What I must be doing something wrong. Did I load them in incorrectly? And it's like well what are you hearing? What would you like there to be more or less of? And it's like I just think there's a dependence on the preset to do everything.
Yeah, well, that
you
guy
know?
said to you, he said, I mean, and no shade to him.
Yeah.
He was just, he was like, so these are just different tempos of delay, different effects coming on and off.
And
yeah,
Exactly.
I was like, were you expecting to hear flanger or phaser or like something? They're based
Yeah.
on the songs that they're
Yeah.
based on.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah.
didn't write the
Yeah,
parts
yeah.
or whatever. So
Yeah.
there's a dependence on those sounds. Kind of it was how it comes across to me. And if the preset doesn't have everything, then I don't know how to help myself or I don't know how to make it
Yeah.
better.
Well-
and it's like this is a starting off point. Like this is to get you going.
Yeah.
And then you tweak it. I would tweak it if I downloaded my own patch. I would tweak
Absolutely.
it depending on what I was playing or a different guitar.
Yeah,
or
if you're
whatever.
playing like EG2 instead or something.
I
yeah.
would get in there and tweak it. Don't be
Yeah,
afraid
sure.
to mess with it.
Yeah,
you know?
I think that's the thing. I think people they buy them and they're thinking that this is going to give me everything I need. This will solve all of my problems. And then something doesn't sound right, and they kind of and I get it because like I remember when I was trying to figure stuff out too. You're just like I don't want to touch anything. Like I'm afraid I'm going to break it.
Yeah.
It's like well, it's digital. So like my advice, I tell people like first off, just save a copy, start there, or make sure you have the original patch somewhere,
Yeah,
just so you,
backup, yeah.
you got it, and just start messing with stuff. It's digital; you're not going to break anything at all.
Right.
Like
You
you're
always
not
go
going to
back.
by adjusting stuff, nothing's going to break.
Yeah.
The patch may not sound good, or it may not sound like what it did initially. But it's like, just start. Yeah, is it too bright? Okay, well, take away some things. And it's like, that's the thing I think about is like, nobody's going to watch every single video we put out. Even if we did a video that we like labeled, hey, this is for that guy that emailed last week.
If it's too bright, do this. Yeah.
Yeah. Like nobody's going to watch everything we put out. And so is this even worth talking about? I don't know. But I feel for people because I remember that. It's like option paralysis. You're concerned. Like one big thing I see people say that I feel like I address a lot in groups. It's like, the levels between snapshots, they're really loud. It's not even. And it's like...
Do you guys get that too?
Sometimes, I wish they were more level. It's like, no, you don't.
No. Well, there's that.
You want to get louder.
Yeah, right.
But it's also, it's like, we all play different from each other. So even if I set up my stuff and then Brian played, it would probably not do exactly what he would want. Maybe close. Yeah. Brian and I have gotten, our ears are like, we kind of have like morphed to the point where like the sound of WT is definitely Bradford and Brian's ears combined now.
I think it's not immediately obvious to people who maybe don't have a ton of guitars how different guitars sound from each other too.
That's a good point.
So like, I know people run into the challenge a lot of like, they listen to something and maybe they even see a Tele or a humbucker guitar and they think, well, I have a Tele or I have a humbucker guitar.
Sound exactly
and it should
the same.
sound like that. And like, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
And then they've read stuff about like, what did you set your input impedance to? Or, someone's like, you must have these global settings, to have good tone, right? And it's all this stuff. And so, they plug in, they go, I must be doing something wrong. I heard this is a good guitar. I plugged into this other amp and it sounded great. And now it doesn't sound good in this thing. And, it's a little like, on the one hand, the stuff we all make is like sort of a turnkey solution. It's like everything's dialed in for you. This is all you need. Just plug in and it should be pretty good. On the other hand, it's not the whole equation. You know what I mean? It's their hands. It's their it's their pickups. It's their guitars. I'm sure you guys see a lot of like these patches sound good through. They sound good through my monitors at home, but they don't sound good through in-ears, which is always such a weird statement because it's like, well, look, man, I was just telling Susie the other day, I was like, man, Susie, I loved the tone of this demo. And then as soon as I put on my AirPod Maxes, the over-the-ear Apple things, I was like, oh, I don't like this guitar at all. You know what I mean? I noticed.
Same exact video.
Yeah, seconds away.
So everything was able to change the video.
It started playing, and then as soon as I picked it up, my headphones, it automatically connects to your headphones. And so, I didn't even stop the video.
Yeah.
And, it just hits you different. You know what I mean? Those things sound a little sharp, and they're not super bassy, they're not like Beats by Dre or something, with all the extra bass and stuff. So things are very different, like how you're listening back. And I think we're all used to like lots of different pickups and guitars, but for someone who maybe only owns two or three,
which is most people.
Yeah.
It's
not always obvious that like how thin or thick their Strat is compared to other Stratocasters or their Tele compared to other ones. Yeah. And they might even not even know, is this more of a 60s sounding Telecaster? Is this more of a fat, like broadcaster 50s style thing? They might not even know where their guitar sits. So they have to put it together. I think for people, the easiest way to address that is if you plug into Worst Tutorial stuff or Tone Junkie stuff, whatever, and it's thin, my immediate thing is like, you could go change everything, but one thing is like, make it sound thicker by maybe putting an EQ up front or try to address it as early in the chain as possible. Because if the problem is your pickups are too thin, making them fatter will hopefully make the amp block and the effects and everything think, oh, you're playing a thicker guitar, and that'll get in there. You could certainly do it after. There's no wrong way to do it. You could certainly go, just if it's a Voxy amp, you could probably just bring the cut down. You're going to fix it that way too. So it's not like you have to do it one way, but that might be, because that's what I do personally. If I have some guitars that are on the thinner side, I may have an EQ block to like bump it up, or just balance between. I used to switch a lot, doing like a Strat and a humbucker, something that has like a little mid bump.
Yeah,
they feel more the same.
It's interesting because we're playing my pedal board and I use Empress compressor Mark II, which has
That thing's awesome.
it has 2 controls that basically let you revoice your pickups, which is exactly what you're saying. It has like a tilt EQ on it that brightens and darkens everything, and then of course it's a compressor, so it's an output control. So depending on what guitar I use to run into an amp, or when I use that board into a digital thing, I'll adjust the EQ and the output knob to essentially revoice the pickup. If it's a humbucker guitar, I'll brighten it and I'll lower the output. If it's a single coil guitar, typically I'll put the EQ straight up, raise the output a little bit. So it's doing the same exact thing, just in the real world.
And that tilt EQ on the Helix is really like bonehead simple.
Oh gosh,
and really
that was only added not that long ago.
Right. Yeah,
which is kind of wild to think about because it's such like an industry standard as far as
yeah. And I'm saying you could apply that in 2 ways. Like I said earlier, you could put it in the front of your chain and treat it like your, let's say you got a Les Paul and then you switch to the Tele and it's way brighter.
Yeah,
you can put in that tilt, make it put a little darker. And then just turn it on when you get the Tele out. And it
has an output level on it, too.
Yeah,
you can
and instantly both your guitars will feel more balanced. It'll still feel like a Tele and a Les Paul. Yeah. You could also do it later on. In some of the stuff we've made, we found that putting the tilt like after the amp, that's also a way to just be like, okay, well now my amp, it's almost like maybe I'm adjusting like a mic EQ or something. I'm making this sound like my Vox, but I can make it go a little darker. I can make it go a little brighter depending on what I'm putting in. That's a really useful kind of tool if you're if you're wrestling with that. But
you guys have done a great job. If you haven't subscribed to Tone Junkie's channel, do it. Of creating resources.
All 1 million of you. If you could please come over to my channel, that would really be great, actually.
But you guys you've created a ton of great content that is aimed to do just this, to teach people who are using.
That's what we were talking
originally
about
it was mostly Kemper, but you've expanded to other platforms as well. But the principles are universal.
Yeah, so many of them are the same.
You do a great job of teaching people because I've watched your videos on EQ how to revoice your pickups, essentially what you're talking about, and you do a lot of content about like how to adjust certain things to make it work for you, and I feel like we need to do more. We've done some of that too. Yeah, you've done a lot more.
We should do more.
A good way to show that, like something you were saying about like tone is an equation kind of thing. Like when you look at the whole signal, it might be A plus B plus C equals D, you know? And we're giving people B. Like, here's a patch.
Yeah.
We don't know what your A is, which might be your guitar.
Yeah, sure.
We don't know what your C is. How are you monitoring this? Like, how are you hearing this? We don't know. But we're giving you, like, one piece of the equation and hoping it works for you. Like, is this good? So when the feedback is, I don't really like your patch, it's like, well, what was the other 2/3 of your equation? You know, so like maybe a good way to do that is saying like, look, we're going to play the same patch with 4 guitars and here's how we might change them. If A is changing based on what B is, you know, or C is in that sense. But it's hard to deliver that to someone when you don't know.
Yeah. I think some people also, it is a kind of intimidating to look at something like the Helix and you're like, I don't know where to go. Like, you're like, you get the unit and they know how to operate it to play, and then they get a patch and like, I don't really know. And it's like, there's an EQ block, there's an IR, there's an amp, there's a compressor. And then like, you're like, that's 4 things that are on.
Out knob on the top.
There's
a volume.
Yeah, there's that's
and there's like sub-menu stuff. So in the same way that like we all look at amps and we might go like, you know, like I'll give you an example. Like Andy Timmons' great video. It's on YouTube, and it's him just talking about his signature, you know, I think it's the Lone Star that he was using at the time, the Mesa Boogie Lone Star. And in there, he talks about something you'll hear other guitar players say. He's like, I love it when I can put the bass on 0 and it's still full enough. He's like, that's when I know it's a great amp. Like it's a great sounding amp when the bass is on 0 and it's, you know. And so that's how he runs the Lone Star. His bass is on 0 and he's like, but it's still so fat. And so
it's weird.
Yeah, it's weird and it feels wrong because we look with our eyes.
Right.
And you kind of like, there's a lot of stuff you do with your eyes you should be doing with your ears.
Yes.
I think there's a thing in the modeling world where, especially among maybe people who make stuff, sell stuff, I'm not like pointing fingers. I just think there's a tendency to want to like do very intricate stuff when in actuality, like, rigs are not that intricate. You know what I mean? So like a lot of times I'll see, you know, I remember we sold some like Helix patches one time, and someone was like, "This is a pretty simple signal chain." And it's like, it's a guitar signal chain. This is, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't need to be super complicated. It's about how it sounds, right? So it's like if you go in there and you don't see like, 4 verbs that like toggle with you know what I mean? There's no, or you're in your acts and it's like nothing is triggered by an LFO in here. Like there's not a, it's like just because you can doesn't mean you should. And
though
like,
it may be allowed. I wish I knew it. What does Paul say? It may be permissible, but it's not beneficial.
Yes.
There you go.
And so like simple things can sound really
Spiritual.
good. Simple things can sound really good.
Often the simpler things sound better.
And so you might just look in there and go, well, this is just a dotted eighth and a quarter note delay and some chorus, and this is just like 2 boosts and an amp, and that's it. And it's like, you're gonna sound great. Learn the parts.
I think that there's something to that. I think some people lean into gear so much, and they don't spend time practicing parts, so they don't know. They don't learn how to use the gear to play what they're supposed to play, and they're expecting it to fix that. And it's like, it can in some ways. There's some ways gear can help you if like you're trying to get a certain thing. Sure, there's some scenarios, but it's like if you just learned a little bit more about the instrument, like that would go further, because then you know what you're trying to get out of the unit. So
yeah,
I mean, it's edgy, but
back to the original question.
Leaders define reality.
Yeah. Back to the original question. Are we creating, like,
some may say,
people who can't dial in their rigs, like
or like they hear it and they say it's too bright and they have no idea how to fix that.
Yeah, it's a weird thing, because I think on the one hand people think you just download this and it's gonna fix everything, and it's like it'll get you a long way, but you still got to know.
Sure.
There is an amount of knowledge you're going to need to have. And we're dealing with a lot of people, too, who at this point, we're not living in the sort of the years when, the guitar players in their 20s and even their 30s have been alive to have owned a lot of this classic stuff in their youth. It was already vintage. You know what I mean? Like, it was already vintage by the time you could get one.
Like a student picks up a guitar today.
Yeah.
They're never going to own an amp.
Yeah.
Probably
they
not.
might
Probably
not.
not
They
ever.
might not. They might not
Probably
own a tube amp.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
That's old world technology.
Yeah. And so all these like devices now are referencing something real that they haven't used, and it's just a different sound. And so it's like an analog delay sounds like this, and a digital delay sounds like this, and whatever, a Hall sounds like this, and I guess that does sound like that. But you know what I'm saying? It's they're all simulating
a
something.
Hall sounds like what?
Well, I was gonna say, a Hall, I guess. Really, I've never played guitar really in a giant hall. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you've only ever played a digital one.
But maybe a real spring, spring sounds like this.
Spring.
A 63 reverb, unit from Fender sounds like this, and they're just taking everyone's word for it, right? They're just believing that Line 6 is telling the truth. They're believing that Axe is telling the truth. They're believing Boss is telling the truth.
Right.
It's like, hopefully everyone's telling the truth, right? And but in the same way,
and then they play an actual, and they're like,
wait a minute,
that doesn't sound really good at all.
That doesn't sound right. Yeah, and
the
we've talked
Helix
about,
is emulating this thing.
we've talked about this. People online have opinions about what a Vox AC30 sounds like, and they haven't played.
They've never played one.
They've never played an old Vox AC30 that is on the Tom Petty record or the Beatles record or whatever. Yeah. And maybe they think an AC30 sounds like the ones they made in the 90s.
I was going to say,
those are very different. Those are very different.
How many Vox AC30s have you guys played?
Like individual or types of one?
No, how many individual ones? Probably 20?
Yeah.
How many of them sounded exactly the same?
There's era. I mean, I could
Maybe
break the Voxes down into eras for sure.
But they're not all the same.
Gracious.
No.
Not every
We'd
AC30.
be here for a while.
I'll just tell you this.
It's a long podcast.
It's counterintuitive. We're working on this new stuff with Stu G, and two of his favorite amps is a 90s Vox AC30 and a 62.
Yeah.
And the 62 is a pre-top boost AC30. You might think that means it's dark. It's not. Top boost means they boost the top end in the power section. They didn't have that in the circuit before. They, at some point, figured out
in the name.
The best way to get the chime was boost the high end over here. They had been trying to make it bright the whole time. So the brilliant channel's brilliant. The normal channel's super bright anyway. So it wasn't like pre-top boost is a dark amp. It's not like no top boost. They were just boosting the top end in the front. So that amp, the pre-top boost AC30, is different than the top boost ones, which is kind of what we all mostly reference. But they're both very bright.
Very bright.
A lot of people may not know, like, Brian May's normal channel sound on those pre-top boost ones is very dark.
Yeah.
That's why he used a treble booster.
Yeah. But the
But
earlier
everybody thinks that Voxes sound bright. So they're like, how does Brian May's tone sound like that?
Right.
And he uses a treble booster.
But the earlier
Master,
normal channels were brighter, and then the top boosted ones, they boost the top end. The normal channels seem to get kind of darker as some of the years go on. But the earliest ones had pretty bright channels together. So it's all different. Then you get into, they were owned by all sorts of crazy people.
Right. Oh, yeah. It
Rose
kept changing.
Morris, Dallas Arbiter. Those are both two phases.
JMI.
JMI was the
Korg.
So there's always a difference between who owns Vox and who manufactures Vox. So whoever owns the name usually gets it manufactured from someone else. That's always been the thing. So JMI made the first Voxes when Vox Corporation was owned by, I think, Thomas Organ. The Organ Center, there was an Organ Center store, and it started selling an amp that got popular with guitar players, and they realized they were selling more of these amps to guitar players than organ players, so they put Guitar Center on the front. And that company...
Really?
And that eventually gets bought out, and then that's the Guitar Center we all have today.
This is the kind
that was a guy trying
This is
to
why
buy.
we have Jonathan
So
H.W. Thoma.
that's a weird roundabout story. But the point is, they were all made. Oasis, Liam and Noel Gallagher
band,
was the guitar player. Noel Gallagher, at the time they're a young band in Britain, and they want the sound of Vox AC30s. They can only afford the current ones, which were made by Rose Morris. And so if you want his tone, you got to go with those Voxes. They're very different.
From the 70s, right?
Even
Late
into the
70s,
80s, even into the 80s, and they were using the wrong speakers, we would say. They're very different. They have reverb built in, and they just are different amps completely. They're AC30s because that's what the name of it is. And then eventually the ones in the 90s that you'll see on Bethel Records and you'll see in all those were made by Marshall.
Yeah,
You know, that was just Korg bought Vox, and Marshall was making those amps with the Marshall amps of the time. So all the 90s Marshall amps and Voxes were made in the same place. And then Korg, who owns Vox now? Not Korg.
I think it's Korg.
It's Korg still owns it.
I think
Yeah.
they
They just sent them over to China, and that became the Custom Classic. Those were the first ones, and then the hand-wired ones.
Did you see they're re-releasing faithful reproductions now again?
I did.
Of that was a NAMM.
Yeah.
Of the old 60s ones?
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
There's
How
always
much?
a lot of money probably.
We will have one.
There's always a compromise between the most faithful reproduction and trying to make money.
Yeah.
And that's everybody's story. But anyway,
All that to say.
what's a Vox?
I would watch
The answer
this
is yes.
podcast.
What's a Vox? Yeah.
This is the kind of podcast I
You
watch.
learn,
Yeah. But many people, as you said, many people have an opinion about what a Vox sounds like who've never played any of them.
Yeah.
Except for what line 6 says of Vox.
Or,
and
it's
it's
their
like
favorite
the one
modeler
that's
made.
in their
Yeah.
glass. It's the one that they modeled.
Or their idea of a Vox is also it's blues. And you put it through greenbacks and it's different. Or it's
different
greenbacks and then you put it through blues and it is different. And
Or they actually play an AC15 and they don't realize how different they
Yeah.
are. And they
Yeah.
think that those are very different.
Yeah.
too.
yeah,
I would want a 30-watt AC15.
because you like the sound of.
I like
It's
the sound. I would
thicker.
just
like
want
the
one
smell.
louder with
A
more
louder
headroom.
one.
But they
Yeah.
got a little more. They got a little mid-range or a little more growly.
Yeah.
But I'd want it to be bigger. 15 watts is not a lot.
You kind of have that because you have a Lightning.
I kind of do.
And a Lightning is like a very loud,
It's a little
very
brighter.
good sounding
It's
AC15.
a little brighter to me. It's a
Yeah.
little more chimey and cutty.
Yours is a 210. I wonder if you'd put that through a 212, what that would do.
Oof.
That's a good
I
experiment.
could make that
I
happen.
like this conversation.
I could put a Lightning through too. Mine name drop was owned by James Duke for a while.
Ah.
And
Mason era.
and it was owned by
Brian Wall.
me for a while.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. Put it in the
There's
museum.
add a few
Put in the tone
zeros to that
imparting
resale.
tone. I like that.
I think overall it's a pretty difficult thing to have never had your hands on the gear.
It is.
And to just look at a model and go, why is this DMM model this way? Why is this Elephant Man model? What is this? You know?
What is this? Yeah.
And
Why
it's
can't
such-
I tap it to be the quarter notes I want it to be?
Yeah.
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 All of a
And-
sudden it's double time.
Yeah. And what is this chorus? You know, why is this happening?
Yeah.
And, the real story there is there's a tape machine, and the tape is dirty, and the tape warbles and makes this chorusing effect. And then someone was like, what if we copied that? So that you didn't have to have a tape machine, you didn't have to maintain a tape machine.
Is that how analog delay came to be?
Yeah, and that's why. Yeah, and that's why they came up with the chips to sample, but they don't sample that well, so it gets darker. Which is like tape delays can be bright. Like the tape doesn't all of a sudden get darker. It does if the tape's old.
Yeah,
but new pristine tape is
bright.
pretty crispy. And then the chorusing was just the chorus.
Yeah.
You could slow it down, and so that's where the chorus knob is on like the Deluxe Memory Man for that reason. It's like, oh, people like this chorusing ability, and that's like added into everything, right? And then digital's like, oh, people like analog. We want to make it darker. People like that. It becomes a thing. And so everything's just copying everything, but it's hard to know that if you don't don't spend the time.
Well, okay, so here's a related question: is it in the pro audio world, like with plugins, for example, if you do recording, there's sort of two ways you can go. There's two approaches, and I'll use two companies as an example: Universal Audio and Isotope. Let's use those two companies.
Okay.
Universal Audio makes plugins that are digital recreations of old stuff, old EQs, old compressors, old mastering equipment. It's like, and it looks like the old thing, and the controls are the same, and it sounds just like the old thing. Isotope makes tools that EQ, compress, do all this stuff, but it's in an interface that's much different. It doesn't look anything like the old
it looks super
technology. It has very different usability, things like that. And as it relates to guitar gear, I would, do we need to learn about all these old, like, do we need to learn about what a Deluxe Memory Man did and why, why a certain tape delay can't do, or, why this chip in this delay pedal, you can't have more than, I don't know however many milliseconds, right? Because that's the chip. Do you kind of need to know that to use the digital version of it?
Yeah.
So is it like,
or just find out
which approach is better? Right, and there's you can have all kind of arguments about which of these two approaches in the pro audio plugin is better. But when it comes to guitar players, I think there's like this another generation. I would say like neural DSP plugins would be kind of like the Isotope approach versus like like these models of things that look like the old thing, that have the limitations of the old thing.
Yeah.
So do we need to teach, or do people who play guitar need to have this educational background about what all this gear is and its limitations and its sounds and what you use it for and when? It's an interesting.
Teach your children well.
It's an interesting thought, like, because we all who have used the old stuff, romanticize it a bit, and love it.
And we're still learning about it.
And we want to
right?
use digital versions of it.
And we're all still learning about it.
That's why that pedal show is awesome, because you can learn about all that stuff. Or,
and dude, you get a vintage Fender amp, and we end up talking about them because you know what Fender amps sound like, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. But then there's 16 in the lineup or whatever, and
they all sound
they're all
slightly
different.
different.
So like.
And then you find out that some of the models were only just renamed because they just wanted to. They didn't have the same parts, but they just made it the same way. Or
put it different
crazy.
Speakers.
Yeah, or they were just upgrade. Yeah. Unfortunately, the answer is probably yes.
Yeah,
like you have to.
You kind of need to know.
You got
some
to
of
figure
this
it
stuff.
out a bit.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whether you like a darker repeat on a delay or a darker verb, because analog delays were this way, or because you like. As long as you like it darker and that's your style, like that's what I tend to go for. I like a darker verb. I like a lot of darker verb and repeats, and I don't really like a lot of fidelity in the wishy-washy stuff. That's just what I go for. And so on a digital platform, if it gives me that option, I can turn it down. I'm not really trying to emulate a Deluxe Memory Man so much as I'm just trying to get a darker repeat.
So okay, the last thing then is should we, as people who make these presets that others go buy or download for free, depending on, should we feel an obligation to also educate the people who buy these things on how do you? Okay, it's too bright. What do you?
Buyer beware.
it's too gainy.
Isn't
What do
that
you
the
do?
principle?
It's a principle.
This delay in here won't have this long of a repeat. Here's why. Because should we feel an obligation to create? I think it'd be great for us to create content. You guys have done a lot of that more than we have. But.
I think one of the best things you can do when you get a new piece of gear is not rush out and buy presets for it, and that's to learn it, turn it on.
All right, edit this out. This is
Make
terrible. Please.
Yeah, I gotta finish though. So you're on the unit, you learn it, you maybe go through some stock stuff, and those will usually show you how or what it's capable of, And then I'll get in. I just did this with Axe, where I kind of see what's out there, and I go through the ones that they've made, and then I start with a brand new empty thing and pull in an amp, pull in a delay, and start to make stuff. And then once I've kind of got my handle on it, I ask you for some stuff. I ask other people, hey, what are you using this for?
Yeah.
What are you getting out of it? And then you start to introduce that into already knowing how it works, And so, but if you just get a brand new piece of gear and immediately just throw presets and only play other people's patches, that's where you would feel hindered, because it's like, how would you change that? You never set up a patch.
You never did.
You have no idea where
the
presence is or the whatever. You only purchased and went, play on Sunday or Saturday night. So that's kind of where I'm at, is like, get to know the gear first, and then all this stuff is meant to save you time, or it's meant to, give you like some more passion to play a song or something that got set up for you. It's like, oh, that's cool. It's inspiring to play it. But you got to learn how it works first.
What are those cooking boxes that they send you all the ingredients for?
HelloFresh.
Like HelloFresh.
There's a ton of
yeah,
them,
look, if you can't cook, the HelloFresh box isn't going to fix that. Right?
Yeah.
Having all the ingredients and sort of the recipe doesn't really
Jonathan's
fix
the king of metaphors,
right? It's that.
And
It's
analogies.
that. You can burn it and ruin it. And if you're sort of lost, I think like what you were saying, if you're lost on a unit, a preset's only going to make you more confused.
Totally.
Because you're not going to understand what this person's doing. But the modern equivalent of going to someone's house and them showing you their cool gear, their cool compressor they're using one way, the cool old delay they've got, showing you that, and then you got kind of learning something about gear. The modern equivalent is going online, either buying presets, downloading free presets. Look at what other people are doing, watching a YouTube video on how to do something.
you learn a ton.
You learn a ton.
Yeah,
Totally.
absolutely.
And that's how you learn. Like, there's stuff in the Helix I have not touched. There's some effects in the Kemper
I haven't touched
I've
everything.
barely touched.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
When you go fractal, it's that list. It's even,
Right, it's huge.
Oh, it's insane.
And that's okay.
It's like a universe of
That's okay.
stuff. Yeah.
Like, that might not be everything. Not everything is going to be like you have to use it. But if you see people using stuff in a cool way and you can pick that up, that's kind of what I think everyone's been doing forever, just in different ways.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I love what Sue said, and both of you guys are, I think, spot on. I would take it a step further, and this is what I do. I'm the only one in the world, I think. I read the manual like front to back.
There you go.
I straight up do.
No, I know some people who
You just sit there with your PRS in one hand and your manual in the other.
Usually,
5 hours later, you're like, okay,
I know everything.
you're a nerd on this stuff.
I'm
I
a
love
nerd.
it.
Yeah,
I have a friend who does. He when the Kemper Player was released, he went straight to the website, downloaded the manual, and just read it front to
read
back.
it.
He didn't even have it yet.
Some evening.
his name is Brian.
Yeah.
I
Sit by
typically
the fire and just read your
it's another
manual.
friend.
I typically read manuals of products before I buy them because I want to know if it's capable of doing what I want it to
No,
do.
that's not what it was the other day when I asked you about the Zoom recorder. I said specifically,
true. He
does
asked me a
this
question.
this unit do the dual recording thing so you have a backup? He goes, no, not this one. And I was like,
It does actually.
I looked it up, and I sent him a screenshot of the manual. I said, right here.
I'm not gonna lie. I was very ashamed of myself.
Yeah.
I felt
That's a
like
manual reader.
I normally
felt
trust
like
him on
I
this.
had
I was like,
let-
there's no way.
I felt like I'd let two people down, you and me.
Yourself.
So you're going into it, educating yourself first.
I love it.
Yeah. What is this
and I
thing
straight up
capable of?
write
Yeah.
manuals
Well,
for every
I was about to say,
preset we make.
That's why we
Yeah.
do what we do, because Brian he knows the manuals in and out,
So-
and he loves writing them.
Yeah, I think that's what. Yeah, learning. Doing it on your own first
Is his name Brian?
is that was good. That's important. Is your goal?
Take note, self.
Is your goal like? What's the vision of what you're doing? And if it's to equip people, then if it's just to sell them a preset,
Equip the saints for
that's
the
one
ministry.
thing. But I think clearly at this table, it's not the goal of what we're doing, because you guys have made a ton of content on how to do this yourself. Like you did the Kemper series for a long
Tips
time.
and tricks.
Tips and tricks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one
Yeah, still trying to do it. I don't feel
You
done.
still do it.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I feel like there's a lot of content to be made. And a lot of people are making a lot of content too. And I think it's valuable to go find it. And we've done, like, one of the first things, not first, but a long time ago, I did a preset build for Helix where I started from scratch and I built a very fully featured preset. And I went through every block. I said, this is what I'm doing. This is why I'm doing it. This is what it sounds like. You know, I think that's really valuable stuff. But I think, yeah, there's a lot of
Y'all should watch that video.
there's a lot of stuff that I think we could do to further equip people to
Yeah.
you know, you always ask the question like, well, okay, if you teach someone how to build presets, why are they going to download your presets anymore? Which is why we got to get these amps and just capture the amps because they can't download that 63 bass.
Yeah, I think that the number of people who buy presets because they want to spend all their time making them are probably very, very, very small.
Yeah, I mean,
I think the modeler is a double-edged sword. It makes the barrier for entry. I mean, you got to buy it, and that is it's not cheap. But like, it means you can sound good really quick. However, it also means that like people and they may purchase presets, but then they may also learn how to make their own and no longer purchase them. But then there comes somebody who the barrier to entry is very easy. You just buy a Helix and you can sound great if you know. So it's like a never-ending thing. But well, this has been the Worship Friends podcast.
That's right.
I've been Bradford.
I've been Brian.
Oh,
I'm an HW.
I've been Seuss.
Hey, go subscribe to
Very
Tone
peaceful
Junkie.
people here.
All 914,000 of you. I'm looking at our number just off screen here.
Look at that. 914.
900.
Yeah. What are you guys
14,000?
gonna do for the big?
1 million.
You hit them 1 million.
We're gonna get everybody to donate $1 to
We're
us.
gonna smash.
Yeah.
Can we smash Brian's 594 for the big million?
Hey.
Can you smash
Can we
it?
smash it? Can we throw it off a bridge?
Why would we do that when we could give it to somebody?
Oh, that's cool too,
Oh.
I guess.
We're not giving my 594 to anybody.
Just to be crystal clear.
Yes. Just so you know.
We'll see you next time.
All right. Bye.
Bye.